It was 7:15 p.m. on January 5th, 2026, and the first major blizzard of the season had just swept through the small town of Marlow, Michigan. Snow blanketed everything in a thick, unrelenting layer, turning the roads into treacherous paths of ice and slush. Dylan Brooks, a 38-year-old single father, gripped the steering wheel of his battered old Chevy truck as he headed home after finishing his last job of the day. He'd spent the afternoon replacing a dead battery for an elderly widow living on the outskirts of town, a woman with no family nearby to help. It was the kind of work Dylan did without complaint, but it had made him late again. He was already over 25 minutes behind schedule to pick up his 8-year-old daughter Ellie from the after-school program. This was the second time this month, and the guilt gnawed at him like the cold wind seeping through the truck's cracked window seals. The wiper struggled against the falling snow, and the heater rattled ineffectively. Dylan glanced at the dashboard clock, willing the minutes to slow down. Ellie would be waiting, probably drawing pictures or chatting with the caregiver, but he hated making her feel like an afterthought. Life as a single dad meant juggling everything: bills, repairs, school runs, and sometimes it felt like he was barely keeping his head above water. His ex-wife had left 5 years ago, overwhelmed by the grind of small-town life and the demands of parenthood. Dylan didn't blame her anymore. He just focused on being there for Ellie no matter what. Less than 4 miles from home, Dylan's headlights caught something unusual on the side of the road. A luxury SUV was pulled over haphazardly, its hazard lights flashing weakly through the storm. The hood was propped open, and wisps of white steam, or maybe just breath in the freezing air, rose from the engine bay. A woman stood beside it, bundled in a stylish leather coat that looked more suited to a city sidewalk than a Michigan blizzard. Her high-heeled boots sank into the snow, and she clutched a dead phone in her gloved hand, staring at the vehicle as if willing it to fix itself. Dylan didn't hesitate. He eased his truck onto the shoulder, the tires crunching over fresh snow. It was instinct for him, stopping for stranded drivers, helping with flat tires or jump starts. He'd been on the receiving end once or twice himself, back when money was even tighter. Grabbing his toolbox and a flashlight from the passenger seat, he stepped out into the biting wind. "Car trouble!" He called out, his voice muffled by the storm as he approached. The woman turned her face pale under the beam of his light. She nodded, shivering. It just stopped. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, and now nothing. I don't know anything about engines. Dylan shone the flashlight under the hood, scanning the components. Snowflakes melted on the warm metal, but he spotted the issue quickly. A loose battery cable, probably jarred by the rough roads, and a faulty sensor connection. "Give me a few minutes," he said, pulling out a multimeter and some tools. His hands, calloused from years of wrench work, moved efficiently despite the cold. 10 minutes later, he reconnected the cable, reset the sensor, and signaled her to try the ignition. The engine roared to life. The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. "Oh my God, I can't believe it. You saved me." She reached into her purse. "Please let me pay you." "No need," Dylan interrupted, wiping his hands on a rag. He stepped back toward his truck. "Just doing what anyone should. At least tell me your name. Consider me a guy passing by." He waved and climbed into his Chevy, the engine sputtering as he pulled away before she could insist. Back home, Dylan hurried to the caregiver's house, apologizing profusely as he bundled Ellie into her coat. The little girl rubbed her eyes, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Did you help someone again, Dad?" she asked as they drove the short distance to their modest bungalow. "Yeah, kiddo. Someone's car died in the snow." "Did they say thank you?" "They tried, but some things don't need thanks. It's about knowing you did the right thing." Ellie nodded solemnly, her small face thoughtful. At home, in their cozy but worn kitchen, Dylan heated up canned soup and toasted bread for dinner. Ellie scribbled in her notebook, "Dad is the best person in the world, even if the world doesn't know." It was nearly midnight when headlights pierced the curtains. A sleek black car pulled up outside. Dylan frowned, peering through the window. A knock came at the door. He opened it to find the woman from earlier standing there, now in a cashmere coat and leather boots, her expression determined. "I'm the one whose car broke down tonight," she said. "I wanted to thank you properly." Dylan scratched his head. "You drove all this way just to say thanks? I couldn't sleep otherwise. It was my fault for letting you leave like that." Just then, Ellie peeked from the hallway, sleepy-eyed. "Dad, who's that? The woman knelt down, her gaze softening. "I'm the lady your dad helped today. I came to say thank you." Ellie sized her up. "Driving that far just to say thanks is a lot." The woman laughed. "Some thanks are worth the drive." Dylan hesitated, the cold air rushing in. "It's freezing out. Want to come in for coffee before you head back?" She paused, then nodded. "Only if you have a mug for a stranger." Hazel stepped inside, brushing snow from her coat as Dylan closed the door behind her. The house was modest, a two-bedroom bungalow with faded wallpaper and a faint scent of pine from a small Christmas tree still standing in the corner, even though the holidays had passed. Ellie, now wide awake with curiosity, trailed them into the kitchen. "I'll make the coffee," Dylan said, motioning for Hazel to sit at the worn wooden table. He filled the kettle and set it on the stove, glancing at his daughter. "Ellie, you should head back to bed." "But, Dad, it's exciting," Ellie protested, climbing onto a chair across from Hazel. "We never have visitors this late." Hazel smiled, her polished demeanor softening in the warm glow of the overhead light. "It's okay. I won't stay long." She looked around the room, the crayon drawings taped to the fridge, a photo of Dylan with a brown-haired woman on the counter, and a chalkboard on the wall scrawled with, "Today is a good day to try." It was a far cry from her sleek penthouse in downtown Detroit, with its marble counters and city views, but something about this space felt real, unpretentious. As the coffee brewed, Dylan poured 2 mugs and sat down. "So, what brings you out in this weather, really?" Hazel wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, staring into the dark liquid. Her name was Hazel Grant, though she hadn't shared it yet. At 35, she was the CEO of Grant Line Freight, a logistics empire valued at nearly $2 billion. Forbes had dubbed her the Queen of Midwest Logistics just last year, praising her for turning a family trucking business into a national powerhouse. She oversaw thousands of vehicles, signed multi-million-dollar deals, and navigated boardrooms filled with sharp-suited executives. But success came with isolation. People approached her for favors, investments, or alliances, never just to help. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. "I don't know," she admitted finally. "Maybe I just needed to say thank you in person. People don't do that for me often. Or ever really." Dylan leaned back, his flannel shirt still smudged with grease from the day's work. "Well, you're welcome. But it's not a big deal. Engines are my thing." Hazel glanced at the photo on the counter. "Your wife—" Dylan's expression shifted, a quiet sadness flickering in his eyes. "Ex-wife. She left when Ellie was 3. It wasn't her fault entirely. Life got heavy. Bills the kid, my long hours. She wanted more than this town could give. So you raise her alone?" "Pretty much. I have a neighbor who helps with pickup sometimes, and the school program's good. But yeah, it's just us." He smiled faintly at Ellie, who was now doodling on a napkin. "We make it work." Hazel nodded, her voice softening. "That's admirable. Most people I know would have given up or asked for help." Dylan shrugged. "Help's not always there, but I figure if I can fix a car, I can fix a day. One step at a time." She studied him, intrigued. "Why did you stop tonight? You didn't know me. You didn't ask for anything. In my world, no one does that without expecting something back." "Your world." Dylan raised an eyebrow. Hazel hesitated, then decided on a partial truth. "I run a company. Big one. Logistics, trucks, shipments, that sort of thing. People see me as a checkbook or a connection, but you just helped and left, like it was nothing." "It's not nothing," Dylan said simply. "If Ellie ever broke down on a road like that, I'd hope someone would do the same. That's all." Hazel felt a pang she hadn't expected, a mix of envy and relief. For the first time in years, she was talking to someone who didn't know her net worth or her title. No agendas, no flattery. Just coffee in a drafty kitchen. They talked longer than planned. Dylan shared stories of quirky car repairs, a vintage Mustang that wouldn't start on rainy days, a minivan saved from a ditch. Hazel laughed genuinely for what felt like the first time in months. She opened up a little about her own life, the endless meetings, the pressure to expand, the loneliness of decisions made in isolation. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it," she confessed. All the success, but no one to share a real moment with. Dylan chuckled. Maybe you need to hang around more regular, folks. We don't have empires, but we have time for coffee with strangers. Hazel met his eyes, a spark of something new igniting. Maybe I do. As she left an hour later, the snow still falling softly, Hazel drove back to her hotel with Dylan's address tucked in her mind. The next day, she couldn't stop thinking about him. A quick search on social media and local forums revealed more Dylan Brooks, the go-to mechanic in Marlow, known for fixing cars on credit for those in need volunteering at the community center. He was a local hero, quietly. Hazel decided then she'd repay him not with money, but with opportunity. But she'd keep her full identity hidden a bit longer. Let him see her as just Hazel, not the CEO. For once, she wanted something real. 2 days after the late-night coffee, Dylan woke before dawn, the blizzard's remnants still dusting the windows. He bundled Ellie into her winter coat and drove her to school, the Chevy's tires crunching over salted roads. "Have a good day, kiddo," he said, kissing her forehead. "Learn something fun." "Will do, Dad. Love you," Ellie waved as she disappeared into the building, her backpack bouncing. Dylan headed to his small garage shop on the edge of town, a squat building with peeling paint and a neon open sign that flickered unreliably. He spent the morning under the hood of a rusted sedan, wiping grease from his brow and chatting with the owner about the weather. It was routine work, checking spark plugs, changing oil, the kind that paid the bills but left little for extras. Around noon, his boss Hal, an older man with a perpetual squint, called him over. Dylan got visitors. Standing in the office was Hal and a sharply dressed man in a suit holding a folder. James Evers. The man introduced himself, extending a hand. HR Director for Grantline Freight. "Are you Dylan Brooks?" Dylan wiped his hands on his overalls, puzzled. "That's me. What's this about?" James opened the folder. "Our CEO, Hazel Grant, has extended an offer for you to join us as head of our specialized maintenance division at our headquarters. Starting salary $86,000 annually, plus full benefits, including health coverage for you and your daughter." Dylan's mind reeled. He glanced at Hal, who shrugged with a knowing grin. "Hazel, the woman from the other night," James nodded. "She was impressed. Said you're the first person in years who helped her without asking for anything, and the only one to turn down her money." Dylan leaned against the workbench, processing. She'd looked him up, found his job his life. It felt intrusive, but also thoughtful. "I appreciate it, but I'm just a mechanic, no fancy degrees." "That's exactly why," James replied. "We need someone who understands real-world fixes and people. Think it over. The offer's open." That afternoon, picking up Ellie, she bounded into the truck with extra energy. "Dad, guess what a lady came to school today? Blonde hair, nice coat. She asked about you and gave me this." Ellie pulled a custom-printed children's book from her bag titled The Kind Mechanic. Dylan flipped it open. On the first page, "To Ellie, you're the reason good people exist. Hazel G." He stared, a warmth spreading through him. She'd gone out of her way again. At home, Dylan sat Ellie down with homework while he paced the kitchen. The offer was life-changing stable pay insurance for her asthma meds, maybe even savings for college. But it meant leaving the familiar garage, stepping into a corporate world he didn't know. Still, Hazel's gesture felt genuine. He called James that evening. "I'll take it." His first day at Grantline's headquarters was a whirlwind. The building was a gleaming glass tower in the city center, floors buzzing with activity. Dylan felt out of place in his clean but simple button-down, surrounded by suits and screens tracking fleets across the Midwest. Hazel greeted him in the lobby, professional yet warm. "Welcome aboard. I meant what I said. I want you to bring that human touch to our teams. Not just repairs, but care." She showed him his office, a small but modern space overlooking the lot, and introduced him to the maintenance crew. Dylan dove in teaching diagnostics while emphasizing listening to drivers' stories. "A loose wire might be the problem," he'd say, "but a kind word fixes more." Hazel watched from her executive suite, reviewing reports. In just days, feedback trickled in texts, stopping for stranded motorists, offering free checks. It wasn't policy yet, but Dylan's influence was spreading. She smiled to herself. Hiring him wasn't just a thank you. It was smart business, and maybe something more. Dylan settled into his role at Grantline with quiet determination, arriving early each morning to review fleet reports and mentor the technicians. The corporate environment was a stark contrast to his old garage, no oily rags or casual banter over coffee thermoses, but he adapted, focusing on what he knew best: practical fixes and treating people right. He organized training sessions emphasizing not just mechanical skills, but empathy. "Listen to the drivers," he'd say. "A rattling engine might mean more than bad bearings. It could be a sign someone's pushing too hard." His approach caught on. Within weeks, reports came in of techs going the extra mile, like towing a stranded delivery van without charging overtime. Hazel observed the changes from her corner office, poring over customer feedback. Over 200 positive mentions in 3 weeks, unprecedented for a logistics firm. One afternoon, she surprised the maintenance team by joining their lunch in the break room, carrying a tray of sandwiches. The group fell silent at first, but Dylan broke the ice with a joke about his old truck's quirks. Laughter followed, and Hazel sat beside him. "You've turned this department around," she said later as the others dispersed. "It's not just efficiency, it's morale." Dylan met her gaze. "I'm just doing what feels right. But honestly, I feel like an outsider here. No suit fits me quite like overalls." She leaned in, her voice low. "That's why I hired you. In my world, everyone's chasing the next deal. I've built this company from my father's small fleet, but it's lonely at the top. People see the title, not the person. You're the first who's seen me as just Hazel." Their conversations grew more frequent, quick chats in the hallway, shared coffees after meetings. Dylan opened up about his fears, the gap between their lives, his worry that Ellie might get caught in the whirlwind. Hazel shared her own vulnerabilities, endless boardroom battles, the betrayal of a former partner who wanted her fortune more than her. "I've learned to guard my heart," she admitted one evening as they walked the empty parking lot. The tension peaked at an investor meeting in mid-February. Dylan presented on fleet safety, bluntly stating, "We can't cut corners on maintenance to boost profits. Lives depend on it, drivers, families." Murmurs rippled through the room. One investor scoffed at the sentimental approach. But Hazel backed him firmly. "Dylan's right. Sustainability over shortcuts." The room shifted, and the proposal passed. Afterward, she pulled him aside. "That took guts." Emboldened, Hazel invited him to dinner that weekend, not as colleagues. "No business talk, just us." Dylan hesitated, glancing at a photo of Ellie on his phone. "I'd like that, but our worlds are different. I don't want you thinking I'm after anything." She touched his arm. "I know you're not. That's why I trust you." Before he could respond, his phone rang. Ellie's school. She had a fever-bad cough. Dylan rushed home, canceling plans. That night, as he soothed her with soup and stories, a knock came. Hazel stood there with a bag of groceries and medicine. "I heard from James. Let me help." She stayed reading to Ellie while Dylan prepared tea. In the quiet hours, as Ellie slept, they talked by the fire. "I don't want your money or status," Dylan said softly. "But I see you, the real you." Hazel's eyes glistened. "And I see a man who's shown me kindness is real, not a transaction." Rumors soon swirled at work. Whispers of favoritism from old colleagues who'd heard of his promotion. Dylan faced jealous jabs, but he held firm, focusing on his team and Ellie. Hazel's support silenced the noise. She addressed it in a company memo praising merit over gossip. Through it all, their bond deepened, bridging the divide one honest moment at a time. 2 months after Ellie's illness brought them closer, Dylan stood on the stage at Grantline's annual conference in a downtown ballroom. The room was filled with executives, investors, and employees, the air buzzing with anticipation. He adjusted his tie, still uncomfortable in the suit Hazel had helped him pick, and stepped to the podium without notes. The spotlight felt unnatural, but he drew a breath and began. "I'm Dylan Brooks," he said, his voice steady. "I used to be a single dad fixing cars 12 hours a day to keep the lights on for my daughter. One snowy night, I stopped to help a stranger whose SUV had broken down. I didn't know who she was, didn't ask for anything in return. I just thought, if my girl ever needed help like that, I'd want someone to step up." The audience leaned in silent. Dylan continued. "The next day, that stranger knocked on my door. Not to pay me back, but to change my life and my daughter's. She saw something in a simple act of kindness that built this company stronger." Applause erupted as he stepped down. In the front row, Hazel's eyes shimmered with pride. Later back home, Ellie rushed to him with her tablet. "Dad, the teacher showed your speech in class. Everyone clapped." Dylan hugged her. "What did you think?" She held up a drawing him with a glowing halo. "You're not an angel, but you're why I believe in good people." That evening, Hazel arrived with blueprints for a new initiative, Roadside Rescue Program, free repairs for stranded drivers on remote routes, inspired by Dylan's idea. "This is your vision," she said. "It could save lives and build trust like never before." They launched it together, and Grantline's reputation soared with stories of techs helping families flooding in. Their relationship blossomed quietly at first dinners, where Hazel learned to cook simple meals weekends, teaching her to drive in snow. "You're showing me how to live without walls," she told him one night as they watched flakes fall outside. Dylan smiled. "And you're showing me dreams can come true without losing who you are." They married in a small ceremony that spring under blooming trees in Marlowe's Park, Ellie beaming as Flower Girl tossed petals with glee. The company thrived under their shared influence, fostering a culture of compassion that boosted profits and morale. In the end, what began with a broken-down SUV in a blizzard became a testament to unexpected connections. Dylan, Hazel, and Ellie built a life where kindness wasn't a transaction but a foundation. Their home, once quiet, echoed with laughter, and the world felt a little warmer. You see, in a fast-paced world where everyone rushes by, stopping to help can spark something profound. It might change a stranger's day or rewrite your entire story. Kindness doesn't always seek recognition, but it often finds its way back, bridging divides like class or circumstance. True love isn't about grand gestures. It's choosing each other through storms, big or small. Every small act ripples outward, proving that one person's compassion can transform not just lives, but entire communities. So, next time you spot someone in need, remember pausing might open doors you never knew existed. For Dylan and Hazel, it turned a cold night into endless warmth, reminding us all that goodness quietly given endures.